Hey, how you doing, econ teachers? This is Jacob Clifford. Now, I haven't made a video this past week. I've given 2 weeks off because I was traveling. I was doing workshops throughout the country. So I apologize if you came to the channel, you're looking for a video and you didn't get one. In fact, let me know in the comments, how often do you want me to make these videos? I will do 2 a week if you guys think that it's worth it. This video, I'm gonna focus on teaching strategies. In fact, we're gonna talk about the 4 key things that a lot of teachers forget, or 4 parts to any lesson or to your planning that has to happen that a lot of times people forget. None of these has to do just with econ. They're not just econ concepts or econ strategies. They apply to all your classes. First one, the most important one, is selling it. You are in sales. I tell this to my people in my workshops all the time, the participants in my workshop. You're in sales. You sell economics or English or physics or whatever you teach, you're actually a salesman. That's what you do. You're a saleswoman or a salesman, and you try to get students to buy it. So you should have a sales pitch for everything you do. For everything. For your course, like why should you be learning economics, and why should you be learning this unit, and why are you learning this lesson, and then why are you learning this vocab term. We always, if we think, okay, how are we going to sell this to students, it solves a problem, the students being like, what's the point of this stuff? Now the good thing is, econ, the sales pitches are pretty easy, right? It's really easy to make a connection. Why learning supply and demand, or production, or cost, or GDP, or unemployment, why these things are important is pretty easy for us. I mean, it's probably harder for other subjects. So I tell my teachers at my workshops, have a sales pitch. No more than 2-sentence sales pitch for every single thing that you do and you sell it to students. How am I gonna get students to realize why this is important? And if it's not important, don't teach it. If you can't come with a sales pitch, then throw it out, don't teach it, teach something else instead. Number 2, you wanna get your class engaged and excited about learning. You gotta create community and get students comfortable working with each other. So this is one of my areas of specialty. I really enjoy creating community and doing activities. I do a lot of skill building activities. I have this program called Skill Building Bootcamp. If you're interested, you can take a look, or actually send one of your administrators or the person who's in charge of professional development at your school and say, hey, look at these videos and look at this idea, this bootcamp program. Because I go to schools and I lead workshops about how to create community and do these skill building activities for freshman orientation programs or AP programs or anything in between, anything that's designed to get students to work together. Now, those are school-wide programs, but I'm a big fan of doing this in my own individual classes. I want my students to feel comfortable working with each other. So I have a bunch of activities that I do in the beginning of the year. A teacher who doesn't really buy into it, at the very least, do it every once in a while, activities remind them this key skill of working together. And notice, it's not for points, it's not for grade, it's for just developing this teamwork and willingness to make mistakes and to learn from each other. Because think about it this way, it's an economic idea. If I can get my students comfortable learning from each other, if they feel comfortable going to somebody else for help other than me, then I'm way more productive, right? So let's say I'm teaching you something that's really hard, it's really confusing, and only 5 out of 35 students actually get it. Well, if those 5 students can help other students get it, then I'm 5 times more productive. I'm way more productive if I can get my students to help each other and feel comfortable going to each other. So I spend a lot of time developing that community and that idea in the classroom so students feel comfortable going anywhere for help. Number 3 is a little bit more nuanced, and it involves creating the kind of community in your classroom that's willing to make mistakes. So I tell my students all the time, if you're not getting this, that's fine. I mean, you don't have to get it right away. Very few of you guys will get it right away. And even in my AP classes, I make sure they focus on, listen, it's okay if you don't get it right away. It's a matter of practicing, and eventually you'll get it. So we're all in this idea, we're all in this kind of this attitude of, okay, we're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna persevere until we get it. So this is not doing like 1 activity or 2 activities. This is the way you kind of talk to students. So when I first was an AP teacher in my AP classes, I'd say things like, oh, well, if you don't get this, then you're an AP student, you should be able to get this. And which was a funny way of saying, like, okay, I don't get this, and this is all new and confusing to me, so I'm bothered, you figure it out. But the truth is, the reason I felt uncomfortable with the content, or I felt like it was really hard, so I kind of put it on them, well, you should figure this out because you're an AP. But listen, how about create the attitude like, yeah, I'm figuring it out, you're figuring it out, we're all trying to figure this stuff out, and that's how life is, right? No one gets everything. Students think all the time like, oh, you're so smart, you're so good at econ, and it's totally true, I am good at econ, but if you pick me up and put me in their physics class, I'd be like, I have no idea what's going on. The students be like, what do you mean? This is easy, we do this all the time, and I'd be all confused. So yes, I am an expert in my little field of the world, but they're better than me in the other fields on the same campus. So I guess the point is we're all learning, and that's okay. So what that means in my class is most of my assessments are not for points. They're not actually for a grade at all. They're just for practice. So in class I have a bunch of practice multiple choice questions we'll do inside of PowerPoint, or I'll do a practice fear response, or we'll do something where we're practicing the content, but it's not for points. And I take away that whole fear of like, oh my gosh, my grade, what's my grade gonna be? Don't worry about your grade. Right? Get the concept, and then when the big unit test comes, when it is for points, you're gonna get it. So back in 2008, I ran an experiment. I keep track of my data every single year of how my students doing on tests. And I told the students in 2008, listen, do you guys wanna do these quizzes for knowledge or for points? And the students said, well, let's just do it for knowledge, because they wanted to, not freak out about their quiz scores. And I said, all right, let's try it. And I kept track of their data. I found out the scores were exactly the same on the test. So the students didn't do any better or any worse. It just basically took the fear away. So again, in my class, sometimes we'll have a fear response for points. But the vast majority of the time, we've done a bunch of fear responses before it's time for that big fear response that's for a point. So we practice to see if you're getting it. You're getting it, okay, here comes the fear response, 4 points, after you had a chance to practice. There's nothing worse than when your teacher goes, oh, you just learned it. All right, here you go. Here's a bunch of points. It's worth 10% of your grade. And the students are freaked out, or they just focus so much on their grade, they're not focusing on their learning. So this is kind of a philosophy, kind of a big picture idea, creating an atmosphere that it's okay to mess up, we're all practicing, we're all gonna get it eventually. Fourth and final thing is more of a strategy, not just a philosophy. The first three are kind of philosophy, big picture stuff. Fourth one's the most important thing you can do in your classroom as a teacher. You gotta do exam corrections. Did a workshop not too long ago, and the school had really hard, really tough AP scores. Their students weren't performing very well, and the whole program was kind of struggling, and they kind of said, okay, what's going on? I said, well, you tell me what's going on. What kind of policies do you have? And they had, in my opinion, was some bad policies. Number one, they had the policy where their AP tests, and again, I'm focusing on AP here, but I think it applies to everybody. Their AP tests, or the tests they give were based entirely on AP test questions. And so if a kid got an 82% on their unit test, and that was considered good, and they rounded it down, so that's, oh, cool, you got 82%, congratulations. And the kids, the kids are like, why? Well, I still missed 18%. Like, oh no, that's good. You got the best class. You did the best student in the class. You got 82%. That's good. And I think that's a problem. In my tests, somebody better be getting 100%. Somebody better be getting like 98%. If no one does, if the highest score is 95, then I'll round it down to 95. But if the highest score is 85 or 82%, then clearly that's a bad test. In other words, the questions I'm giving are above their capacity, everybody's capacity in the class, to get it. And there's nothing that destroys your willingness to learn to feel like you're not getting it. Especially when your teacher's like, no, but it's okay, your grade's good though. You're like, then you become all focused on your grade, not focused on your learning. If 82% is considered good, then you're not really caring what you're getting and not getting. You just care about your grade now. So that's one policy. The second policy, the one I'm focusing on, is exam corrections. If you don't do exam corrections, don't give an exam. In other words, if you don't have the chance for the students to figure out what they missed and why they missed it, then don't give an exam, because there's no learning taking place. Which sounds weird, but it's 100% true. Exam correction is the most important day. Students always think the day of the test is the most important day, and it's not. It's the day after the test, when you're figuring out what you missed. Oh, I missed question 3 or missed question 5. Then you're actually learning something. So why is that so important? Well, it goes back to the beginning. Remember the first one? Getting students to buy in. If you tell your students, oh, you got 72%, or you got 85% on the test, or you got 90%, right? The students go, okay, well, what 10% did I miss? And you go, that's not important. What's important is you got 90%. Don't worry about the 10%. Let's not go over those questions. Let's just move on. It kind of ruins the first idea I said of knowing why it's important. If this stuff is important, then I should figure out what's the 10% that I missed and why. If it's not important, then okay, I got 90%, okay, I got my grade, that's all that matters. But exam corrections reiterates the idea of selling it, getting students to buy in. You gotta understand this stuff. And if you're messing up, that's okay, let's figure out where you messed up. So exam corrections kind of puts together all the other concepts I mentioned. It talks about getting students to buy in, because you're doing exam corrections and this stuff's important, so let's figure out what you missed and why. It talks about the idea of number 2, getting students to work with each other, because during exam corrections, that's exactly what they're doing. And number 3, the students are realizing that they're going to make mistakes, and you have that attitude in the philosophy in your classroom, hey, we're all trying to get this, it's okay if you're messing up. So exam corrections is kind of the practical application of all this just big entire philosophy stuff. So I always have my students do exam corrections in the order of difficulty. I also have an exam correction sheet, in case you're interested. It's in the the resources below. Take a look down below. I have an exam correction sheet. If you have my teacher resources for AP Economics, then you already have all this stuff. But after every single test, I do exam corrections and figure out students, what do they miss and why do they miss it? Now, if you see the sheet, by the way, on the sheet, the students just don't write down the answer, right? What they do is they write down a fact that if known would have made the difference. So they thought, supply increased would cause, the price to go up. And they can write, no, an increase is a shift to the right. Supply increases a shift to the right, price would go down. So they write down what information they missed, and if they would have got it right, they would have got the answer right. So it has them reflect on each question that they missed. Now, I don't do this for points. Exam corrections is not for points. It is. You get 5 points no matter what. If you have no corrections, you get 5 points. If you did 12 corrections or 30 corrections, you still have to, you still get 5 points. So I don't give points back per question. But what about the kid who gets 100%? What's he doing? Well, he's helping other kids. So his job during exam corrections is to turn around and help other kids get it. And that's how he's earning his 5 points. The kid who missed a bunch is figuring out, what they missed and getting help from other students. So again, 4 things. I hope it helps you as a teacher. I bet you're probably doing most of them, if not all of them already. But let me know in the comments below if videos like this are helpful, if they, edify you and strengthen you and help you, get out there and jump back in. And teach and get excited about teaching. But thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already done so. Notification bell tells you when I made new videos. And also make sure to tell me, how often do you want me to make these things? You want to make them once a week, twice a week, once a month, anything. I don't know. I'll do it for you guys, okay? Thanks for watching. Till next time.